Okay, how do you know that the law of non-contradiction is true?
Because of its axioms.
I hope everyone here, if you have the slightest bit of philosophical knowledge, you know that is a nonsense answer.
The word comes from the ancient Greek word that which commands itself as
Are you going to pull a Charlie
AKA
Kirk? What's it mean in Latin?
I'm using your source.
You
all
just
I said was
disregarded the first sentence to look at the ancient Greek root of the word. Is this your argument?
Logic here. There's no way you're a Destiny fan, right?
We agree on a lot.
Oh no. Like what?
Just in general, I suppose, probably like 70%.
Okay.
Did you see that? You see that spicy Piers Morgan interview he did?
Oh yeah, real spicy.
I mean, what do you think of that?
Perfectly reasonable. You have a problem with this Piers Morgan interview?
I mean, the part about like being okay with violence as long as it brings conservative people to the negotiating table.
I'm 100% sure that's not what he said.
What do you think he said?
He was saying you can't disavow violence if the other side doesn't disavow violence, right?
Right.
That's it.
And he went on to say...
Right, what?
What did he go on to say?
You tell me. He said a lot of things.
I mean, I already said what I was able to surmise from his statement.
Okay, what did he say that made you surmise that? Was it that
implied,
Republicans should be scared, or was it something else?
I don't know about scared, but he implied that violence, right, might be the thing that is needed to get conservative people to the negotiating table.
I'm fairly sure that's not what he was saying. At least not in that particular way with that meaning. Right, like, you've heard of the prisoner's dilemma? You've heard him explain that?
Uh-huh.
Is there anything there that is consistent with your interpretation?
Yeah, so Destiny said, I won't condemn anything until Donald Trump can go on air and say all of us need to calm down.
Right.
Right.
Is there something bad about that?
He said, then further said, conservative figures need to be afraid of getting killed when they go to events so they can look to their leadership to turn down the temperature.
Right. You understand, he's the one who's afraid, right? He's the one who's afraid to go out because he might get shot and killed. And so, what he's saying is that if I'm afraid, but the other side isn't afraid, then I'm going to condemn violence, my side is going to calm down, their side is going to keep turning up the temperature, and then they're actually going to kill us, right? Like, you understand that's the dynamic he's saying should not be in play. And he's saying that the other side should also be afraid, so they lower down their temperature, we lower down our temperature, everyone's got a lower temperature, right? And then there's no violence. That's the whole dynamic that he's asking for. He's saying you can't lower down, he's saying like it's basically like a fight. Someone can't throw a punch, and then you say, I don't want to fight. And then they throw another punch, and you're just like, I still don't want to fight. You're just going to get beat up, right? You say, hey, you threw a punch. I'm not going to punch you back, but you can't keep punching me either, right? That's the dynamic he's asking for, which is very logical and reasonable, I would say. I don't know why your interpretation of that is completely different.
I mean, I don't think that my interpretation is that far from what other people are seeing.
I think
and your
what other
analogy
people are
of
saying
like
are conservatives.
Your analogy is false because Destiny would be the third person in this perspective. You would be
What do you
watching
mean?
two other people in a fight, and you would be condemning one side and saying, that's wrong, don't do that. But when the other side throws a punch, you sit there completely quietly and don't interrupt them.
No, because why would he just be like a person on the side watching? He's somebody who might be involved, right? Like the next person who throws a punch, that punch might be on him, right?
But as of right now, he's not an involved party. He's an at-risk party, but he's not involved in the current ongoing violence.
I'm sorry.
Look,
Are you
all I'm
saying
trying
that
to say is
that
if-
his claim is valid only if he also gets shot?
No, I'm saying that he could have picked a far better way to say it that would have left less room open for interpretation.
I mean, maybe I would agree with that, but it's also because he's explained it in intensively, as I know, in his streams with the whole prisoner
Well, right,
dilemma.
but nobody watches that. That's a nuanced set of people, the type of people that are going to end up in this debate server, right?
Sure,
It's
but you
very
can't
nuanced.
get into all of these little details. All he said was very simply, I don't disavow violence until Trump disavows violence. And he said he doesn't like that
I read
Charlie
the
Kirk
quote.
was killed. He doesn't like that all this happened. He doesn't like that his life is now also in danger, right?
Hold on. So I don't think that I think you're getting off base here.
How
Hold on,
so?
let me pull up his tweets after Kirk's death.
This is so boring. Can we talk about something?
I mean, look,
Substantive.
it's just blatant dishonesty, really. I mean, Destiny had the tweet about flying flags at half mast for Charlie Kirk. He went to buy one to fly it at full mast, even though he's not a very patriotic individual. He just doesn't seem like a very forwards or honest person. Seems like he's going to keep saying these very sneaky, veiled things until somebody either stops him or gets him in trouble.
I'm not really sure what you mean. Like, what is he saying specifically that makes, like what is your claim of what he is saying and what his intentions are?
I'm telling you that Destiny, whether he publicly endorsed violence against conservatives or not, was at least, at minimum, neutral in saying violence is going to keep happening and I'm not going to disavow it. I'm not going to say the violence is bad until conservatives say the violence is bad.
Well, that's because it wasn't his side doing the violence, first of all, right?
Okay, then what side did the violence?
Well, the shooter was a conservative.
The shooter was not a conservative. Come on now.
The shooter was a conservative.
She was not a conservative. This is blatantly disingenuous.
I'm pretty sure the evidence is fairly clear that the shooter was, at the very least, on the right and on the whole.
Right. Okay.
I mean, what evidence do you have that he wasn't? Right? Like, where was your information? I'm willing to change my mind on that if I see the evidence.
I mean, the parts of the internet communities that he was in, the fact that he was mostly isolated from his family, though they lived in the same general area, they lived away from each other, right? It seemed his actions were very politically motivated.
Well, separating yourself from your family does not mean you're not a conservative, but I think you mean trans spaces?
I mean, I guess, if that's what you want to say.
What do you mean if that's what I want to say? You said the spaces he was in. What spaces was he in that would prove that he was not a conservative?
I mean, I would say that he was inhabiting spaces that didn't exactly exude conservative idealism.
I'm fairly certain that having a trans girlfriend does not automatically make you liberal. I don't know if you have a different view on that, because I'm pretty sure if we looked at priests and conservatives, some of them are gay, some of them would consider themselves, they have like maybe some sort of gender dysphoria that they would never come out with because it would ruin them, right? Being gay does not like just make you a liberal, right? Like, I hope you would see that.
Yeah, didn't say that.
right? So like we have people like Nick Fuentes, who I believe literally dated like a cat boy or something. Like his whole community is insanely conservative, but they're very open to the sexual aspects that are liberal, right? I mean, you're sighing. I don't see this guy was, he shoots, he had the gun, right? I mean, you're trying to tell me that a liberal who would be somebody, in my perspective, wants like universal healthcare, wants good education, wants gun control, maybe even the abolishment of the Second Amendment, is just going out and using guns and killing people when that's more of a conservative thing.
We
anyway.
don't have concrete evidence either way yet. So
I don't think
can't
we
really
have
make a-
I don't think we have concrete evidence either way, but that doesn't it's leaning that he's in Utah, a red place. His family was like hardcore MAGA, and they said that he was like getting slightly more left, I believe was the thing, which is you have a lot of room to slide left and still be very conservative when you're at the really edge of right because you're MAGA.
Okay. I mean, that's still not evidence though.
I mean, I'm not saying we have conclusionary evidence. I'm saying he was probably, in my opinion, he was probably conservative. You could argue that maybe he wasn't, but I don't know. You'd have a tough road there.
I mean, I don't think so. I mean, if we're basing it off of the same exact, pretty much anecdotal assumptions that you're making, there could be a case going the opposite way. I mean, with the fact of what he wrote on the bullets, and
What did he write on the bullets? I forgot.
Hey, fascist, catch.
Oh yeah, the video game references to Helldivers, right?
Yeah. Again, and anyway, whether or not the dude's leftist. If I'm betting, I'm betting he's some sort of a recently found leftist. The Destiny tweet that I wanted to say though, or the Destiny video clip that I wanted was, Charlie Kirk getting shot is an example of fuck around and find out for conservatives. He also said that he's pro-genocide. Nice.
That last part might have been satirical, but I mean, either way, I'm not sure.
Destiny fan.
Yeah, but
no, because he makes fun of leftists, right? Because the leftists are always like, "Oh, the right is pro-genocide," so he's like, "Oh, Eddie's so pro-genocide," right?
Yeah, he's so smart, just thinking over everyone.
I mean, I think it's a genocide, so that's like a place where I disagree with Destiny, right? So I'm saying that could have been satirical. If it wasn't, I would still agree with it. If it's satirical, then I'm not as much as in agreement with it, because I do think it's probably more closely to a genocide than not. But either way, this is like fuck around and find out, right? Like somebody whose entire side constantly says we just have to deal with school shootings died in a school shooting, right? I mean, like when a school shooting occurs, the other side never says we have to disavow violence, and they kind of just say, oh, well, that's the price you have to pay for freedom, right? I feel like I'm not getting. Yeah.
What do you think about Destiny's? I feel like the thing he's probably most uneducated on is I mean, he did pretty good in the debate with what's his name? The Marxist economist. But Destiny's pretty uneducated on economics, generally speaking. So I'm just wondering, like, what your thoughts on that are.
I'm not super educated on economics, but I find his economics reasoning fairly good. Where I disagree with him is usually on healthcare and Israel-Palestine, not to a huge extent, but to a pretty good extent. And there was one other thing I don't remember right now, but generally healthcare, I would push back on his Israel viewpoints. where I think maybe he's not 100%. He's definitely not 100% aligned with what I think, but I think it might be like a few subtle differences, but they're important. Yeah, one other thing, but I can't remember.
Well, I mean, like what economic makes sense?
I don't remember really. If you give me like a claim he made that you disagree with, then I could say whether I agree with that or not.
Yeah, well, like he
know.
says he's quote unquote pro capitalist. That's why he debated like a Marxist professor. But
Okay.
he'll always say things like we still need a significant welfare state to back up the market. And I forgot what his take on taxes are, but that's probably the main thing that
his take
he's
on
in support of a
taxes
welfare
was
state.
that you should be paying taxes because you live in the country, right? You benefit from the country and its resources, so you should be
Yeah,
paying to ensure that those are still there.
yeah, that's stupid. Yeah.
So you would be like a communist.
I would just be anti-state.
What does anti-state mean necessarily?
Do you know the difference between anarchism and communism?
I haven't heard about anarchism in a long time, so I'm not sure. No.
Okay, so anarchism and communism, or you could say Marxism, differ because the Marxist take is that we need to use the state to achieve anarchism or to achieve communism or the dictatorship of the proletariat. An anarchist like me would completely reject that and say that that the state is inherently an immoral force that we should not be engaging with and trying our best to subvert as much as possible. So, like when Destiny says, um, like taxes are good because we use the resources and we live on the land that they claim, it presupposes that America as a government actually legitimately owns this land, which they don't. So
Depends on how you would define legitimately.
well, like how do you think an entity or a person comes to legitimately own a piece of property?
So there's legally and then there's practically, right? So the US practically owns the land because they have actual control over the land, right? And they decide what can or can't happen to it. And that's usually how it's been for like most of human history. The land you own is only as good as if you can keep it or not, right? If someone invades, takes your land, then you don't own it anymore, right? It's only as good as you can actually hold on to this land. But once somebody does own the land in that way, they can now create laws where it's now they also legally own this land. And then you have other countries who own their own land and have their own governments recognizing you as owning that land, right? And then that legitimizes your claim to that land. That's how I would see that.
So you're conflating right now. You're conflating possession and ownership. So ownership specifically speaks to who has the right over said thing. So like if I came to your house and I stole your car, we wouldn't say as a society or even as a person that I own your car.
Legally,
I'm using your car. I have your car, but I don't own your car. Like the actual sense of the word. You don't even have to appeal to laws. You,
right.
Like
So
literally the word ownership implies that you have a right over the thing.
The issue is I was not conflating those two things. One necessarily arises from the other, which is if I have actual physical control of land, I can now instill laws into this land where certain things are right. If there was no country, right, no rules, no laws or anything, and I have a car and someone came and stole that car, well, they might now think they have a right to that car because they stole it, even if I disagree with them, right? There's no one there to say, well, this is what's fair and this is what's not fair, because we don't have rules or a society that actually.
So you
came
don't think there's a
together and
difference
said
between an
that.
owner and a possessor?
There is if there's a legal framework and system in society that's willing to have those viewpoints, right? But I can't say I have a right to something if no one else agrees with me that I have a right to that thing. You understand?
Not really. So like now we can't even now we're purely appealing to
what does it mean to have a
wait,
right?
wait, hold on. I haven't finished.
Sure.
We're purely appealing to the conditions of a given society at that moment. So like we can't even come to any claim as to who is the owner without appealing to I guess what authority, like, it's basically just the basic, you're just invoking might makes right, which is not
Right.
really a
That-
valid way of looking at this, obviously.
But I like even when Christians or any like religious group of people say I have a right to something, that's an appeal to an authority, right? They're saying God gave me this right, right? We say human rights are God-given rights because no one actually has
I know, but
any rights.
they have an actual, even they have an actual ethical system though that they can derive it from. When you say might makes right,
but
there's
you
no
need that
ethical
ethical
system there.
system. But you're
But there's
exactly
no,
because
but
the person
what
with
you're
the
invoking
might makes
doesn't
the
have an
ethical
ethical
system. Because the
No.
person who
So
because I said
what
one necessitates
what
the
is
other, right?
so what is the ethical system that America is appealing to say that they own this land,
Their own ethical system.
which is,
That they own the land legally, right?
do you see how that doesn't make sense? Right. So like when we posit
Ownership
ethical
doesn't
systems,
make sense.
wait, hold on. When we posit ethical systems, right, they prove themselves, right? So we base it off of axiomatic claims. So
Right.
when an entity comes in and says, I own this, that doesn't mean anything, right? They would have to
Sure.
presuppose it with something. That's why I'm asking you. If my point is that America doesn't actually have an ethical system, but you're claiming that they are. So I'm asking you, like, what are they actually appealing to?
You're asking me what higher power they appeal to?
I'm asking, how do they derive the fact that they own this land?
Okay, let's talk about what it means to own the land, right? Because
Yeah, let's talk about that.
if I buy a house and I say, okay, I own this house, like what does that mean? It means I've appealed to somebody else who does own the land. We have
But
agreed
in that
that
situation,
I own this land.
yeah, you can appeal to something. So
But
you
that's
can
a
say,
legal framework, right?
wait, hold on. I own this because this person sold it to me voluntarily. Or like we can appeal to Locke. I own this because I homesteaded it, because I used it as a means towards an
Right.
end. That's actually appealing to something.
Yes,
Right?
but that's a system they created, right? That's not real in the universe. An alien who comes down would not have to abide by our ethicals or anything, right? So the
ethics
fundamental
don't exist?
in the real world outside of our brains, no.
Okay, there are a lot of things that. So do thoughts exist? We can't physically record them.
Sure, yeah,
Does
they
that mean that
exist
they
in our
don't
heads.
exist?
Yes.
Okay, so they exist. So, I don't even.
That's a completely you've double used the word exist in two different meanings here. When I say ethics don't exist, I mean it's not like mathematics, it's not like a law of physics, right? Like they only exist as long as we say that they exist and then we abide by them, right?
So you agree? So you agree though that things like mathematical theorems do exist?
Well, mathematical theorems explain things that do exist, yes.
Wait, that doesn't make sense. Okay, wait. So there are mathematical theorems that don't appeal to something outside of us. They're self-proving,
Like
just like
what?
ethics. They're axiomatic, right? So, that doesn't make sense.
Well, give me an example so we're on the same page.
I'm not well read on mathematics, but Gödel's theorems would probably be
Gödel's theorems are a
an
proof, right?
example.
They're not axioms, they're proofs.
So do those exist though?
The logic is real, right?
Wait, why? Why is it real?
because that's how the universe operates.
Based on what? So wait, that
Based
now that
off
doesn't make
logical
sense.
reasoning, right?
Based off logical reasoning that derives from what?
Like if I told you that draw me a circle with 3 edges, I'm not saying that's not something you can logically do because the universe does not allow that, right? Even though I said it.
I think you're not making sense right now.
I-
This doesn't make
that
sense.
makes perfect sense, right?
No, wait, no, because your
Math
first claim
math
was that in
describes
order
the
to,
universe.
in order to see that something is real, we have to appeal to something outside of us to say that it is real. But things like logical systems like this, or something like the non-contradiction principle,
Okay, so you're saying within,
is not something
yes,
that is
within,
like I can't see
I
it.
understand. Yes,
can't see it.
within those logical structures, those things are true and complete. If we insulate the
Now
logic
you're
within
getting-
its own universe, right? But when we use math, we are not trying to have math be true in its own mathematical universe. We want the math to actually define the real world that we live in, right? Einstein's special relativity and gravity calculus, these are not things that are just complete in their own mathematical bubble. These are things that actually reflect the real world around us. So when we say ethics,
Not
I say
Gödel's
ethics don't
theorems.
exist, well, Gödel's theorems are logically complete, yes, within their own logical universe, right, with their own axioms, but we also
But they're true.
understand, right, but they're true outside of that universe as well, right?
How do we know? How do we know?
Well, now you're talking about how we can know something with 100% certainty or not. That's
No,
like a
but then
completely different
that way
argument.
your logic doesn't make sense. Your logic doesn't make sense because you originally said that we know that certain mathematical theories or physics theories are true because they apply to the real world. But you just
Right.
admitted that Gödel's theorems, right,
Mhm.
are real, but they're not attempting to describe anything outside of us.
Gödel's theorems are real because they describe the limits of other systems, okay?
Other systems that are in our heads. That isn't something that I can look at.
But what is the end goal of a system other than to describe the real world outside of our head? Like we're not creating systems.
Oh my God.
We're not creating systems to like have magic universes in our heads. Like you understand that the whole point of a logically complete universe is that we can try to apply those things that we can conclude, right, from these logically complete universes to see if those conclusions also apply to the real world. I hope you
Wait,
like that's the whole point of mathematics.
Okay,
right?
But I can't. It's funny because I can even accept this, even though it's not true. But like I could accept this, and
What?
my argument would still
Sure.
be correct. So my
Which
argument is still
part?
correct because Gödel's incompleteness theorem, right,
Right.
is appealing to other systems. But you already admitted that it is true by itself. It is true. So if it is true by itself, and it's describing other systems, then we can't appeal to something outside of us to prove that it is true, yet we know it is true. So again, my whole point with all of this, let's go all the way back. My whole point with all of this is this applies to ethical systems as well. So even though ethical systems have their own axioms and they're quote unquote within their own universe, we can still apply them outside of that. They're just because something is axiomatic and self-proving doesn't make it not true. Doesn't make it not
you just
applicable to
contradicted
the real world.
yourself. You contradicted yourself
How so?
because you said you can actually agree with me that the whole point of these systems is to accurately try and describe the real world. And then you said, but then therefore ethics are also real because we use them on the real world.
No. I wasn't
These are
agreeing
two
with you on that
completely
point.
different
I
things. You said
wasn't
you
agreeing
could.
with you on that
You said
point.
you could agree with me on that point.
So-
It'd still be true, which
Okay.
I think obviously is not true.
Okay. Well, you're taking my words and and using them differently. As I said, there are theorems and there are logical systems that we can derive, which you've already admitted are true, that we don't even need to appeal to the real world. So you're wrong.
What do you mean we don't need to appeal to the real world?
So Gödel's incompleteness theorem is an example. We
Right,
do not
it's
need
true
to-
within its own world, right? But for it to be true in the real world, it has the rules of that logical universe also have to be applicable to the real world, right? I can't make up a universe in my head where a circle has 3 edges and then rationalize into all of these new conclusions and then be like, well, since these things are real in this universe, this logical universe I've created, it must also therefore be true in the universe, in the real world. Like you understand, right? The only reason I'm saying that other systems might actually be true in the real world as well is because they are trying to accurately put axioms into their logical universe that exist in the real world so that the conclusions they derive are conclusions we can apply to the real world as well.
Yeah, you're not making sense. So
What part of that didn't make
wait, hold
sense?
on. So let's take the non-contradiction principle. So A equals A and A equals not A cannot be
Sure.
true at the same
Are
time.
you writing this? Are you drawing this
So
in front of you?
no,
Okay.
I'm making music. So oh yeah, so
A equals A equals not A.
yeah, so that is true, correct?
A equals A and A equals
Or
not
sorry,
A?
A equals A equals not A is a contradiction.
Yes.
Okay. How do we know that's true?
Because we have axioms in this logical universe, which we've both assumed going in. If we have zero axioms, we just have a universe where those two things exist, then I can't tell you if that's a contradiction or not without axioms. But I hope we've assumed some
What
basic
axiom have we
axioms,
assumed to
right?
be true?
Well, you just said no contradictions, right? And then we would assume what a contradiction is, which is two claims that are logically inconsistent. And by logic, we would also have the axiom that the same logic applies in this axiomatic universe as, the universe we exist in. If we assume all of that to be true, then yes, that's a contradiction, and I would agree with you. Do you agree with what I said?
Wait, sorry. I was texting my friend. So again, we're not appealing to anything outside of us to assume that it is true, even if we're assuming axioms, correct?
We don't have to appeal to anything, but we derive the axioms we use for this universe from the real world, right?
What do we take from the real world to assume that these axioms are true?
Logical consistency.
How can I perceive that?
What do you mean perceive
That doesn't make sense. So you would agree that these logical systems, we figure out that they're true not because I'm looking or I'm seeing or I'm smelling or I'm hearing or I'm tasting. It's
We
not
live
based
in a
on sense
universe.
perception.
We-
It's based on our mind, right?
Well, let's look at where we derive these axioms from. We live in a universe where things do not just pop in and out of existence, right? Like my keyboard can't just disappear or reappear. Matter is only where it is, right? Things don't just spontaneously move unless they've been moved. These are all things that we kind of just assume and we take into these axiomatic universes with us. For example, if I say A equals B and then I say A equals not B, I assume A and B have not changed values spontaneously from one to the other, right? We have so much axioms already in play because we assume the logic that we have brought into this universe, right? Every little thing we've assumed.
Proving my point.
I don't even understand.
You're proving my point.
What you're arguing right now.
So it's
Yes.
so simple. It's so simple.
Okay.
You're just not accepting it. So
Yes.
it's these logical systems and the assumptions that we make from them are not derived from what we perceive from the universe. We derive them from themselves. We derive them from human-made concepts, right? So that's my point. Like you're
These are
attempting to
not-
say like all wait, hold on. You're attempting to track all of this back all the way to the universe or what we perceive. But I think for one you're also conflating like empiricism with or empiricism as in like the philosophical system with like the actual existence of the universe, because these are two different concepts. Like just because I perceive the world through my senses, that doesn't mean that I cannot come to a truth claim of something, of a logical system, that's not fully based on that. I don't have to I don't have to get all of my truth claims from what I'm perceiving with my senses. I can get to a truth claim from pure logic alone.
Right, but we both have to agree on what logic is. And where do we derive that? If not the universe,
derive that-
where would we derive logic?
We derive logic from human-made concepts. It's conceptual. It's not from
we
the universe.
all just
It's not from what we
came-
perceive.
I mean, you're basically trying to say that humans came to logic, and it happened to coincide with how the universe works.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying that logic is a human-made concept. Logic is based on human reasoning. It's not based on anything outside of that.
Yes, but what is the point of reasoning?
You're trying to track it back to something outside of something that's human, but that's not.
No,
Like-
I'm
like we can't
asking you, what is
abstract
the
logic.
point? What does reasoning do for us if not try to derive facts about the world, right? And so what we do is we create these bubbles.
We don't
create-
have to do facts about the world. It doesn't
We-
have to derive facts from the world. It just derives facts from themselves. Like this goes back to Socrates and freaking Plato. It's like Aristotle, when he derived the law of non-contradiction, he wasn't attempting to describe something that was around him. That was literally like
he was. That's
perceiving.
exactly what it was.
How?
Are there contradictions in the real world? No, right? So he wants
wait,
these
hold on,
logical
hold on.
systems he creates.
What was
To
he
mimic the real world
appealing
as
to
possible.
outside of himself to prove that it was true? What was he appealing to?
The literal universe he lives in.
How?
Okay. When you're creating this logical system, I can say that I want a law of non-contradiction, but I could also do the opposite, right? I could say, I actually want no law of contradiction. Things can contradict and still be completely valid, right? I'm saying the reason he made this rule is to make the logical universe he's creating as close to reality as possible. If that is not the goal, then you're trying to derive
What?
some
Okay,
crazy
wait.
nonsense.
Wait. To what reality?
The
what do
one
you
we
mean by
live
that?
in.
What was he perceiving from around him that made him want to prove, or any proof outside of him that proved the law of non-contradiction? My whole point is that it was purely through his mind. It was purely through other people's minds. It is purely through human reason. There is nothing outside of human reason that is proving these things.
So you're saying that there is no proof that the law of contradiction applies to the real world?
There is no proof outside of us. There's no proof outside of human reasoning. You're trying to extrapolate it for some odd reason. I don't know why, but like you're trying to say like there's something outside of us. You keep on saying it's the universe.
What do you mean there's
that we
like,
perceive that wait, hold on, that we perceive that makes it true. No, it's through our mind. It is through reasoning alone.
So I'm gonna ask a question. If something happens in the universe, okay, and no one perceives it, did it actually happen? Would it be an accurate
God.
statement outside? Would it be an accurate statement
We're
to
going
say
back
that
like
that
2,000
thing
years with
happened?
this one.
We really are, because I feel like we need to find some common ground.
Yeah. So what does this have to do with what I said?
I'm looking for common ground so we can build off this. If like let's say a star explodes and turns into a black hole, no one sees it. Right? Did it actually happen?
Yes.
Okay, so I could say as a statement of fact that this actually happened, and you would not say that this is only a truth in my mind. This would be a truth in the real world, right?
Yep.
And if I were to create a system that is not the real world, but I had like a supercomputer that I was able to fill it with all of the axioms associated with the real world. So every placement of every atom in the universe and all the laws of physics, all of these were axioms in the supercomputer, and the supercomputer ran, and it also determined that this star exploded and created a black hole. You would say that this system was able to derive a fact, and that fact actually correlates to the real world as well, right? It's not just a fact inside of that system, that you cannot then associate to the real world. This is a fact in the system that is actually representative of the real world. You would agree?
Yeah, this doesn't equate to logical systems being derived, though. So
And
a
also,
logical
I'm
system.
gonna get
wait,
there.
hold on. A logical system can be derived without appealing to something outside of itself.
100% you are correct.
So when we're trying to prove something outside of ourselves, obviously, like if a star exploding, obviously we're going to appeal to something outside of ourselves to prove that. But
Right.
when you're deriving something that is not outside of yourself, that you can prove through your own human reasoning alone, then you do not need to extrapolate it to the rest of the universe.
Great, I'm with you. So when you say ethical systems are real, I'm saying they're not real in the universe. You say they are because we have them real in our little thought bubbles, and then we use them in the real world. That doesn't make the ethical system real in the real world. It means they're real in our heads, and then we abide by them in our heads.
Well, but that's why it's a silly statement. That's why we're going back to what we were going to at the beginning. It's a silly statement because just because it's not applicable to, like, I can't have a logical system in front of me to perceive, that doesn't make it not true. So like when you say, oh, it's none of it's real, then it's not speaking to the efficacy of these systems.
But the system itself is not designed to be real. Like I hope that's what the distinction I'm trying to make.
No,
whereas
well, but
if
when you
have,
say
like, a
real,
mathematical
you're saying real in terms of what we
Existing in
perceive
the
in
real
the outside
world.
world. Yes,
Not just
but
our
you,
perception, but
wait,
like
but
what's
hold on,
actually
wait,
there.
hold on, yeah. So, but that doesn't make the logical system not real. Is it fake? What does that make the logical system
The
then? What does
logical
that make Gödel's
system,
theorems then? Well, what does it make of that? Are those real?
does the logical
Are those
system
true?
exist in the real world, right? So if I have a logical
No,
system
I can't perceive
where
it.
not only you can't perceive it, but it doesn't actually exist in the real world, right? It only exists in your head as thoughts, right? Where you can, it's kind of like a blueprint. I can write the blueprint for a building, right? But that building doesn't exist. I just have a blueprint for it. And that's basically what ethics is. It's a blueprint for something. But in the case of logic systems, that blueprint could become reality if your axioms are accurately representing the universe, right? In the case of ethics, no matter how well your axioms actually represent the real world, you could never build the building from that blueprint because ethics
So
are
it's not real.
right. They're not real.
So,
right? They're in
none
our
of these
heads.
mathematical proofs are real either.
That's the distinction I was making, which mathematical proofs are literally designed to reflect the world around us, right? An ethical system is meant to derive ethics from the world around us, or whatever axioms you want in your universe, right? To derive those ethics.
Okay,
And
so
ethic is not.
so tell me how something like set theory connects anything to the real world.
How set theory connects anything to the real world? You mean infinity? The universe is infinite, right?
What are we
Well,
appealing
I
to
was
in the
talking
real
about.
world to say that theories that come from set, there's a multitude of them.
Well, like let's say we
because
have.
because these are purely numbers that we're working with.
Well,
And who
like
makes
I
up
assumed
numbers?
you were talking about infinite sets with like whole numbers and
Yeah, it could be things like that. Yeah.
though of course if we were and I assumed that because I thought it was obvious that other sets do appeal to the real world. Like if I have a set A and set B and I say this set contains these things and that set contains that things and some things
I
might
know,
be the same or not.
But there are some numbers that we can literally not, like, they wouldn't, we can't appeal to the real world to prove that they are true. They're purely theoretically proved. Like
what do you
there are
mean?
infinities that we can't count. So so we only know that is true because we derived it theoretically. There's nothing from the real world to say that is true.
So it's not that you're actually correct there, right? Like we don't actually know if like the universe can go down to that level of precision where like you have an infinite amount of numbers, right? We don't know if that is true or not. This is something that comes out of mathematics, and we know that mathematics is not a complete axiomatic universe that is perfectly representative of the real world. So we understand that like 99% of the conclusions we reach do apply to the real world, but then we have like this 1% of like crazy stuff of like what happens when we divide by 0, what happens when this, what happens, and we have to like create new axioms to better represent the universe, right?
Yeah. So you prove my point, right? Because you were trying to say that to determine if something is real, we always have to look outside of the system to prove, or the system has to appeal to something outside of us to prove that it is true.
That's exactly
in this case,
right.
you're not doing that. So in this case, like with the uncountable infinity, or an infinity larger than whatever biggest number that we can actually perceive in the real world, it's true only in the logical system. Yeah, we know it is true. So like that's the disconnect here.
No, we don't know if that's true. We don't know if numbers that are infinitely long actually have any application in the real world, right? Just the same way, like, for example, in quantum mechanics, I think it was like light or energy. I think it was energy in general, where people were like, hey, we're doing the math, and the math says we would get this amount of energy into this thing, and it wasn't happening because what the reality was that they couldn't that energy had to come in like whole number packets in the real world. So the math that they derived was not actually indicative of the real world, right? It's just as the same as 1 divided by 0. What the fuck would that be? They look at the real world, there's nothing like this, right? You have nothing that is 1 divided by 0 and then explodes out to infinity. So they had to
you're saying the implication of set theory is not real.
I'm not saying the implication of all of set theory is not real. I'm saying that mathematics is known. This is a known problem in mathematics, that it is not a complete axiomatic universe where every conclusion must be indicative of the real world, right?
So, but there are set theories that come to this conclusion. So I'm saying, are those set theories specifically the ones that mathematicians do use? Those are not real.
Well, obviously mathematics is not real, right? That's a system we've created. It's a logical system, right? But we want to use it to derive real.
Okay, math is not real. Okay.
Math is a language. Right? Math is a language.
But I mean, to say it's not real is silly.
I'm not okay. We have to ask ourselves, what does it mean when it's real? The equations define real things. But does the universe have that equation written down somewhere?
Wait. These equations don't, though. This set theory literally implies something that isn't real. That isn't.
Sometimes
that we haven't actually proved yet. So okay, wait.
It's not just that we haven't proved it yet. It might be that it's not true.
So again, are you saying that the implications of set theory, as we know it today, are not real?
Not all of them, I would imagine. Because again, mathematics is not a complete axiomatic universe that is comparable to the real world. This is a known problem in mathematics. So you can't say if set theory shows me infinite numbers that there must now exist infinite numbers in the universe, right?
Okay.
It can't be that I can zoom in to one particle
You think
forever.
math is not real? I think math is real. Okay.
I didn't say math isn't real. I said math is not a complete. You can look this up. This is
said that word for
what
word.
do you think
Math
Gödel's theorem is? Gödel's theorem literally says you can never have a complete logical system, right? That's the whole point of Gödel's theorem that you brought up. Mathematics is a system. You can't have a completely 100% fully logical system.
I mean, I don't know if he had a slip up. But that's what you said.
What
you said? You said math is not real.
It's rules. I love this.
Word for word.
Yo, you guys.
I said math is a language. The theorems.
You said okay. Wait. Jerkman, were you here when he said that?
Describe reality.
Wait. Hold up. What's this about?
Okay,
he's trying to say ethics are real in the real world because they are within their own complete system. I said that's not true because complete systems do not necessarily reflect the real world. And then we got into mathematics, and I told him mathematics is not a complete system. Therefore, not every piece of mathematics is real.
I said mathematics is not real.
I said it depends on how you define real. The equations and theorems define a real universe, but the math.
Those are your words. Those are your words, not mine.
You're just using semantics because you have no argument. It's so obvious.
I'll moderate. logic, you did say those exact words, but I don't think you meant them like the way that Bob was
Right,
trying
because
to
I'm
say.
saying like we have to define what real means,
sure.
right?
But I mean, he's just denying that he's. I don't know why he's denying it.
I'm not
Okay,
saying I'm denying
You did
your
you
version
did.
of what
Oh
that
my God,
means.
He just did it again.
You actually said those
I'm not
words. I
denying
will
it.
say that. But I joined late. I really don't know what's going on.
he said is
okay,
math
let's go
real,
back.
and I
Let's
said
go
math
back.
is not real in the sense that like these equations are like burned into like a computer running the simulation of the universe.
Okay,
These
okay,
equations
okay,
are
okay.
a language that defines real things in the universe, right? The mathematics itself is not real.
No, that's not true either. Okay, Jerkman. Okay, so here's how this conversation, because we were talking about ethics first, because we were talking about taxation and how that's justified, whatever. I mean, we didn't even get deep into it.
We're using math
and
to
then
prove communism.
and then no. So I said that ethical systems can be real based on human reasoning, and logic's argument has changed a lot, but like he was basically saying that
Been consistent.
that in order for any system to be true, or like in order for us to call it real, we have to appeal to something in the universe to say that it is real. So I brought up certain mathematical not equations but theorems, like set theory, for example. Like there are certain sets that tell us that there can be infinite sets that we can't actually perceive and that we can't actually count to. So I was basically proving or bringing that up to say that we can come to a truth statement, or we can come to say that something is real based on human reasoning. We don't have to abstract it out. I don't have to say this water bottle is real because I'm seeing it, or set theory is real because I'm seeing it. Set theory is real because the logical axioms that follow from it are true. So that's just the mix up that we're getting in. Like he's saying that that doesn't make it real. I'm just saying that I think we're just operating on two different definitions of real at this point.
All right, so
and I think that this conversation is basically over. I think we can actually jump to a new topic, but I think we've already talked about
here's
that.
my side of it, and Jerkman can moderate if he wants. My side is that logical systems are used in order to find facts in the real world, right? If you create a logical system that has inconsistent rules from the real world, you're by definition not going to get things that actually reflect the real world. And he proved this himself when I don't know if he actually knows what Gödel's theorem is, which says that no logical system can be both complete and logically consistent, right? So we know that mathematics is this applies to mathematics as well. So either you can derive all the laws of the universe from mathematics, but you will also get some contradictions that are not real in the real world, or you will have no contradictions, but you will be left not finding out certain things about the universe. And mathematics tends to lean to completeness over logical consistency, because we know things like 1 divided by 0 and things like that cannot occur in the real world, but they're still possible in mathematics because we want the most complete mathematics, right? And then we put in rules later to try and account for these things. Now, what he's saying is that because a logical system in itself is complete, and you can derive something from that, like sets or whatever else, that if it's logically complete in its own logical system, that it must therefore be true, which I have no idea how that even works, because I told him you can make a logical system with axioms that are completely untrue in the real world, come to new conclusions that have nothing to do with anything, right?
What do you mean by true? What do you mean by true in the real world?
True as in outside of our...
Oh, okay, I gotcha.
Right? It's like actually true in the universe. With no one there to perceive it, it would still be true. So he's trying to say that ethics are somehow true even beyond our brains, because ethics can be logically complete within their own semantic universe. And I'm saying, no, we create semantic universes to reflect the real world so that we can actually derive conclusions from those logical semantic universes that are helpful to us in the real world because they will accurately reflect the real world. We cannot work backwards and create a universe in which it has all the axioms we want, derive whatever we want from it, and then say that must be true as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably sit this one out because I'm pretty philosophically illiterate, but I do.
Wait, so what's the objective of this debate?
He's
It's
trying to
it's
say if
basically
ethics are
ethics.
real or
Nothing
not.
at this point. Nothing. At
So,
this
like,
point.
Yeah,
Y'all
you've
don't have
changed
two
your
objectives
argument
y'all
at
can
least
agree
twice,
on,
but
and
okay.
all it's gonna come down to is just a
Um,
stance. They are not gonna be able to work.
Yeah, I mean,
together.
yeah, I mean,
You know
he
what I
keeps
mean?
on
Y'all
trying to
have to
push
agree
it
on
and
a
trying to
certain
do it.
object. You know,
I'm trying to
You can
push
get
it.
into idealism. Like you could say like
it's just like everything leads to infinite
Nothing
regression,
exists.
and I'm like,
I
guess.
never even said that, but okay.
I just hate philosophy. So I don't really. I'm just don't know about philosophy, so I don't really have my opinion on it.
I mean, the question is very simple, which was whether ethics actually exist in the real world, just because you can create
That wasn't
a logical
that wasn't,
system.
Nope,
that
that wasn't the
encapsulates
question.
them. That
Now you're
was
lying.
that
That wasn't
was
the question.
Okay.
So
All
no,
right.
obviously, duh, ethics don't exist in the real world. I can't
Okay,
see
then I
ethics.
win. Good job.
I can't hear ethics. I can't taste ethics. That's not what I'm saying.
Great.
I'm
then I
saying
win.
that these
I win the
these
debate.
logical
Thank you.
systems. Hold on. You got to talk a lot. These logical systems and these ethical systems can be true. We're operating on a different what it means to be true.
They can't be true in the universe. They can be true in your semantic universe.
Hold on. So, but that's what I'm saying though. Is like we brought up the law of non-contradiction, which Aristotle derived himself.
Derived from
and-
what?
Hold on. He didn't appeal to anything outside of himself or the universe
Then
to
why
say
would
that
he
it
come
was
to
true.
it? Then why would he come to that conclusion?
Because he used his brain.
Right. And what did he
And
look at
wait,
to
wait,
derive
hold
that
on, wait, here's
conclusion
the
with his
crazy-
brain? What
here's the crazy
evidence
part.
was he looking
Hold
at
on.
to
So-
say that this is true? The universe, right? You have to
Wait,
come
wait,
back to the universe.
Wait, what evidence?
Otherwise,
wait,
circles can have edges.
What evidence? Wait. What evidence from the universe is he using to say that it is true? What is he appealing to in the universe to say that it is true?
The fact that there are no contradictions in the universe.
Oh my god! What? That is pure logic. That's nothing in the
Yes.
universe.
Oh,
That is nothing in the universe that he's appealing
You
to.
can
He's not
have
looking at a
an-
star.
you can
He's not-
have
he's
a
not-
logical
he's not looking
system
at
that
the-
has
he's not looking at
contradictions.
Saturn and saying that law of non-contradiction exists. He is
You can
using his
ha-
human reasoning. That's my point. So
are you
for everyone else in the
denying?
room, this
Are
is-
you
this is all I'm
denying
saying.
that a
This is all I'm
logical
saying,
system
okay?
cannot?
So hold on.
You're denying that a
So let me
logical
get this out,
system
and you can
cannot
respond.
have axioms.
Let me get this out, and you can
Sure,
respond. Let me get this out, and you
whatever,
can respond.
okay.
All I'm saying is that you can come to a truth claim like the law of non-contradiction. We can all agree is true. We can say that it is true, and we don't have to appeal to the universe. We don't have to appeal to my senses. We don't have to appeal to anything outside of myself
Because
to say
it's an
that it is true.
axiom.
I can say, hold on, I can say that it is true based on my brain, my faculties. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, how do you know that the law of non-contradiction is true?
Because of its axioms.
I hope everyone here, if you have the slightest bit of philosophical knowledge, you know
Wait,
that is
where-
a nonsense answer. I cannot
How-
say
how is
something
that
is
a
true
nonsense
because
answer?
I assumed it to be
How-
true.
That's not what I said.
You said he used his
I didn't-
brain.
okay.
That means he must
Okay,
have a
so-
logical reasoning to reach this conclusion. You can't just say it was an axiom.
Yes, and he's using his logical reasoning.
So I'm
to not
asking you
appeal
what
to
logical
anything
reasoning?
in the
What-
universe.
Okay, what was the logical reasoning?
Human
used?
reasoning. Human reasoning.
I'm not
He's-
asking you what kind of. I'm telling you, go through the reasoning with me, so I can believe you. Go through the Let's say I don't
You don't
believe it.
You don't believe. Wait, you don't
Yeah.
believe that the law of
Yeah,
non-contradiction
let's
is
do.
true.
Sure, I'll. Whatever it is, devil's advocate. Let's say I don't believe it. Show me the reasoning so that I can believe it too. You can't do
Okay,
it because it's an
so
assumed
a
axiom.
thing- okay, hold on. So, a thing cannot be and not be at the same time,
Says who?
right? So
I
that's
don't
why
believe that.
A equals A
No,
and
I
A
don't
equals
believe
not
that. That's
A
an axiom.
is-
You gave me
Then
an
you're wrong.
axiom. I don't want that axiom.
Wait. Then provide a case where something can be and not be at the same time.
Sure, I'm going to now create a semantic universe in which A can equal B and A cannot equal B at the same time. There
Perfect,
you
let's hear
go. I just did. Those are my axioms.
didn't.
My axiom
Nope,
is that there
that's
is no
not an
law of
axiom.
contradiction. That's
You didn't actually.
you
you
can't
didn't
say
actually.
something isn't an
Okay,
axiom. Something's an
okay.
axiom if within your
No,
semantic
no, no,
universe
no,
you
no.
call it
So,
an axiom.
okay, wait. So are you ascribing non-cognitivism? Are you saying that we can
Jesus
never come to
Christ.
to something that is true as an axiom?
If it's
That's
an
your claim.
axiom,
You-
it means you
you're saying that
didn't
we-
logically
You're
come
saying
to it.
you're saying
Do
that
you understand
anything
that?
can. You're saying that anything can be an axiom.
The
That's your
laws
claim
of
right now.
physics are axioms. You do not have to logically deduce the laws of physics. They are axioms. Okay? If you create a semantic
But-
universe
wait,
and you
wait, but
have
you're
axioms,
saying-
you
okay,
cannot
you're
question
saying
the
that
you cannot
you're saying
question
that
the
something
axioms
that is
because they are
contradictory. You're saying
axioms.
okay. You're saying that something that is contradictory can be an axiom, but you didn't actually derive that.
No, because logic itself is an axiom. When we create that semantic universe, the way we use logic is an axiom. If, for example, if you ever made a very simple AI that like you have to code in the basic logic. These are the axioms of that AI. It doesn't know that A can equal B, but shouldn't be A not equals B at the same time. You have to code in the rules of logic itself. But when you make these axiomatic universes, you are assuming that these logical mechanisms that we use are universal. Well, in the real world, they're universal, right? But they don't have to be. You could imagine a different universe that has a completely different way of logical reasoning that is valid within that universe, right? Maybe not.
I mean, if
maybe,
if
maybe you
if
can't
you
imagine
wait,
that.
hold on. So if you're literally saying that that an axiom that can create an actual logical system can prove that contradictions exist, then we don't have a discussion anymore. Like,
There's
you just
no
sound crazy.
proving. You don't prove axioms. Axioms do not be proven. You reach conclusions that can
Axioms
be
do not
proven
be
via
proven.
your axioms.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Well, clearly,
so-
you've
so,
never taken even a basic philosophy class. I don't know what to tell you.
I don't know what to say either. I mean, you're saying
Yeah,
that
great.
that
you
we
can chat
derive.
GPT it. You
Hold
can
on,
chat GPT it
Hold
if
on,
you
hold on,
want.
hold on.
I'm
What-
willing
what
to
is
accept
ChatGPT?
chat.
Okay,
Whether
so no. So
just-
all
we
I'm
can-
saying,
okay.
your claim, and again, I
Right.
never even said that you have to prove axioms. Axioms are
Yes, you
self-proving.
did.
Okay,
They're not self-proving. They're just assumed to be true.
they're proved by themselves, is what I'm saying.
No,
Okay.
they are assumed to be
So-
true within their semantic universe. No one had to
They're
prove them to be
okay.
true.
They're self-evident. They are evidenced by themselves.
No,
That's how we describe
these
axioms.
are no.
Okay.
That's not how you
If
describe
you're
axioms. That is an
if you're gonna
incorrect
pick
way.
apart everything I say, then
Because it's wrong.
I don't-
Because
we
you're
don't-
going to use
it's
this
not
later.
wrong.
Because you're going to use this later
Okay.
to say your axioms must therefore also be true.
Well, no,
but
it's
they're
okay.
not
We'll
true.
look up the definition. Wait, we'll look up the definition. It's okay.
Okay,
A statement or
bro.
proposition which is regarded as being established, accepted, or self-evidently true.
Yes. Can you now
Thank
look up
you.
what an axiom
Okay,
is in a
so-
logical semantic universe? Because that's where we're using it.
This is okay.
Here, I will Google it.
No. It's okay. It's okay. Now we have to-
Axiom meaning in a semantic universe.
So I guess it's not self-evidently true. It just doesn't even make any sense.
Hold on, I have to do this.
This is
stupid robot
the average
thing.
Destiny fan.
In a semantic universe, an axiom is a foundational assumption that through logical rules defines the properties and relationships of all elements within that universe. The set of axioms establishes the ground rules for what is considered true, therefore providing the very structure meaning for the system being defined. And nowhere does that definition say that it must therefore be self-evident or actually true. It is true within the semantic universe. Do you
Where are
understand?
you reading this from?
It was the first thing from the AI overview. And from
Oh my
Wikipedia, from Wikipedia, it says an
AI
axiom
overview?
postulate is a statement that is taken to be true to serve as a premise or starting point for further reasoning and arguments. From Wikipedia. Just search up
Keep
axiom
reading
meaning
that.
in a symptomatic
Wait,
universe.
keep reading that sentence. What's
That
what
was
does
the,
the next
here,
sentence say?
that was the full
Theory, Bob,
sentence.
fuck idiot.
There's a next.
The
Okay,
full
the word
sentence
comes
is
from
an
the
axiom,
ancient Greek
postulate,
word.
or
Wait, let me read it. Let me
assumption.
read it. Let me read it. There's another sentence after that uses the word that I used. The word comes from the ancient Greek word axioma, meaning that which is thought worthy or fit, or that which commands itself
Are
as
you gonna
evident.
pull a Charlie
AKA
Kirk? What's that? What's it mean in what's it
self-evident.
mean in Latin? Are you gonna pull a Charlie Kirk on me?
I'm
bro?
using your source. I'm using your source.
You
all I
just
said was that it is-
disregarded
wait,
the first
okay,
sentence
okay.
to look at
All-
the
all I-
ancient
all I
Greek
said-
root of the
all I-
word. Is
okay,
this your
logic.
argument?
You have to calm down. Okay.
Fuck,
I know
this is insane,
that I'm
bro. I mean, this is
I'm-
actually insane what you're
I
doing.
know that I'm
right
ducking
here.
on you with your name, okay? But I all I said was that
There's no
axioms are
way. There's
self-evident.
no way you believe
That's
this.
all I said.
You're lying.
That's all I said.
Come on.
That's all I said, and you're having a fit over it. That's all
because
I said.
because
and it's true.
because you're gonna use it
And it's
later
literally
to say
true.
that the axiom is actually
But
true.
is it not true? Wait, is it
No,
not true?
an
Or
axiom
axiom's
is-
not self-evident.
No, they're not self-evident. Axioms are assumed to be true. That's what an axiom is.
Dog,
It is assumed
you're
to be
saying
true.
tomato. You're saying tomato and tomato right now.
How about I chat GPT
What-
it and then
what-
we don't
what-
have to
yeah, yeah.
debate it?
Okay, yeah. Go
Okay,
ahead.
there
Wait.
we go.
I'll tell you exactly what to ask it. Are
Okay, let me pull up
axioms self-evident?
ChatGPT.
That's all you better put. Are axioms self-evident?
I'm
And
gonna
tell me
put
what it
an
says.
axiom in a semantic universe, okay? Because
Or
that's what we're talking.
okay,
Because
okay.
you want to use multiple
Okay,
definitions
go
here.
ahead. Go ahead.
Let me.
Bob, I just
There
got
we go.
free Burger King. I recant everything I've ever said negative about the communists. I am
So I'm going to ask it so that
Mesmerized.
you agree with me on this. Are axioms self-evident in a semantic universe, or just assumed to be true? Is that good with you? I'm saying it's assumed to be
tomatoes
true.
or tomatoes.
Okay, well, what
This
does
is so
self-evident mean then?
Oh
Because
my
I
God.
said they're not self-evident, they're assumed to be true, and you said no, they're self-evident. So you made a distinction as well, did you
Yeah,
not?
bro. You got it, bro. You're right, bro. You got it.
Okay, bro.
Oh my God.
Says that's an
One second.
excellent. He says that's an excellent and subtle question.
Okay, well, okay,
Axioms
okay,
are
wait,
not
okay, let's-
necessarily self-evident. They are assumed to be
Oh,
true
yes.
within a formal or semantic framework. Whether they are considered self-evident depends on the philosophical stance one takes about what mathematical logic is. There we go. You can fight with ChatGPT, I guess.
How do you feel after that?
I feel like I've wasted
You
my
feel
time with an
accomplished?
idiot.
Me too.
Okay.
Wait. So let's actually go back. Let's
said
actually go
we
back.
can
Let's
talk
go
to
back to the
ChatGPT.
discussion.
It doesn't agree with you,
Okay.
and now we're both idiots, I guess. Okay.